Hey everybody. It's David Patrick Green, and I'm trying something new today, and it's incredibly tricky. I'm actually live on Facebook right here, I guess, right here. And I'm also live on YouTube. Where's the camera lens? Right there. So this is a first. I mean, I've barely been doing live content as it is, but now I am doing it simultaneously on two devices. Maybe I can get this device a little bit closer, and I won't have to look as far awry. That's a little bit better. As you guys know, I'm a professional actor, and I'm just going to look back and forth between both cameras, which is tricky because I got to find the cameras there and there. Okay, right? Is this it? Yes. Is it? Yes. Okay, so this will be tricky, but I think it's fun. And if acting isn't fun, then why are we doing it? I feel like I want to center this one a little more, even though I've got a little bit of a fridge shot in the way. Maybe I can bring it a little closer as well. Ooh, here we go. You know, they always say don't screw with something. Okay, I think that's about as good as I'm gonna get it, at least for this round. I can't move. I'm surrounded by lights. I've got one here, one there, and one behind me, and I'm crowded in on my chair with my Hack Hollywood sign behind me. I know this is sorry, I'm talking a lot and haven't done anything yet, but I'm a professional actor, and all I know is that I know a lot about how to become a professional actor. So if you want to become a professional actor, you should listen to me. In fact, if you have access to any professional actors, ask them questions, but don't say, "What did you do?" Just because you can't copy them specifically, but see if you can have a conversation with them. Whatever they tell you about what they did, take it with a grain of salt. Don't take it as something you should do exactly, because you cannot copy someone else's path. Okay? You have to take your own path, and that needs to be based on who you are bring to the table. So that's just a starting point for those of you who are trying to figure out who is it that I can listen to, who is it that I should listen to, when it comes to becoming a professional actor. And also, equally importantly, and maybe more importantly, is who not to listen to, because you can listen to all of the wrong people for all of eternity and you will never get anywhere. And I'll just generalize in terms of who knows how to become a professional actor and who doesn't. And who does know how to do it are professional actors, and virtually nobody else knows how to do it. And most professional actors only know how they did it, which makes sense because they did it however they did it, but they didn't really have a map. They didn't have a roadmap per se, like a guide. Like they didn't have a mentor. Maybe they had an acting mentor, but they didn't really have a career mentor, which is what I try to do and what I try to be for people. Hopefully you guys are with me. If you are with me now live, please ask me any questions. I'm not very good at getting to the comment section so far, but I'll work on that. Anyway, today's topic is the 7 deadly sins of acting. And what these are probably the 7 worst things you can do for your acting career. So if you eliminate these 7 deadly sins, then you will be more likely to do the few good things, the few right things you need to do for your acting career. And I suppose the next video or a subsequent video I will do will be what are the things you do need to do for your acting career. But it's really important to eliminate the don't do things. And these are very commonly taught by people like casting directors, acting teachers. You might hear it from your agent. You're certainly going to hear it from a lot of other actors, especially ones who haven't booked a lot of work. You might even hear it from actors who have booked a lot of work, but they don't quite understand how they booked it, and they may attribute their success to things that were actually not that relevant in their success. Okay, so I have a third device here, which is what I'm going to read the 7 deadly sins from. So I am really a technical marvel today. It's funny, it's really hard not to look at yourself because you're so handsome and talk to the cameras. So hi YouTube, hi Facebook. Okay, my fingerprint swiper. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the first deadly sin of acting is relying on others to do your job. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that you're not taking 100% responsibility over developing your acting career. And this is really, I guess, as a sin, to not do this that's the sin. And to do it is the virtue, okay, to take full responsibility for your acting career. But who are the others that you might turn your career aspirations over to? Well, the obvious ones are talent agents and managers. You think they know better, and you don't want to rock the boat, and you feel like you really need one of them, so you're not going to disavow what they say. You're not going to argue with them. You're not going to say, well, this is how I'm running my career. If you want to be part of it, great. Most of the time we defer to them, which is a really bad idea because they don't have our interests at heart. They have their own interests at heart. Everybody has their own interests at heart, and that's natural, and it's also good. So you should have your own interests at heart, and when you decide to sign with an agent, and this applies equally well to casting directors or acting teachers who want to give you advice about your acting career. They'll tell you to do certain things, and they will tell you not to do certain things. And frankly, you shouldn't listen to them. You should do what you believe is right and what makes sense. And the only way to prove that is to actually try the things that you think are right. But the first thing you need to stop doing is to turn your career over to others. And that means asking their opinion on everything, not doing things they tell you not to do. Like they may say, don't call casting directors, don't visit producers, don't do this, don't do that. We'll take care of everything. Oh, and by the way, don't call me either, right? Don't call me, we'll call you. Well, that is not a good strategy for a partnership. You need to be in communication with people, and if they're giving you that kind of advice, then there's a problem. But it really boils down to not letting them run your career. You need to create a career path for yourself. You need to establish what it is you bring to the table and who you can bring it to. And then when you know that, you can take that information to others like casting directors and agents and teachers and whoever else you might be interacting with, and tell them this. You need to tell them what your plan is, and then they can decide whether they think they should work with you or not. But if you just leave it all up to them, then guess who's controlling everything? And your individuality will be lost, and also your responsibility will be lost. So when your responsibility is in somebody else's hands, who knows what's going to happen? And they also don't know you that well, so they will tend to portray you in the wrong way based on how they see you or how they want to see you, and often that's a recipe for disaster. Okay, rule number 2. I have a little problem with the old, getting new headshots because your agent doesn't like your old ones. Okay, this is extremely common. Headshots are blamed for all actor problems, often from the agent's perspective. So if you're not getting called in, if you're not, really it's about not getting called in. If you're not booking, that means you would have been called in, and if you're being called in, you're fine. But if you're not getting called in and they just can't come up with any other reason, they will default automatically to your headshots, which is preposterous. Why would anyone bring you in just because of your headshots. You're not going to be a face model. You're trying to be an actor, right? So they want to know if you can act. Maybe there's some rough idea about what this person looks like. Oh, Caucasian, African American, Native American, Asian, Latino, whatever. They can say things like that, but even those things are out of, they don't really focus on that so much anymore because we are in an environment where they're trying to be non-discriminatory. So all that agents have left, because they don't necessarily pick up the phone and talk to people, is this thing they got to blame it on, right? They don't want to blame it on themselves. They are certainly not going to blame it on themselves not doing their job. And what's their job? Well, their job is to get you in the door. It's not your headshot's job to get you in the door. It's your agent's job to get you in the door. A lot of that responsibility falls on you as well, because you need to be doing things that get people excited about you and get you known to them, such as producers and directors and casting directors. But when it comes to the simple technical submission process, that is where your agent is supposed to pick up the ball. Now, if they're just relying on your headshots, then they're not doing a very good job, because they're just kind of hoping that somebody likes your headshot, but they don't even know who you are, and the agent's probably not helping them with that because they're not picking up the phone and saying, oh, you've got to meet David. He is so perfect for this role. I mean, the way you've described this person's personality is David to a T. See him. Just me and see him this one time, because you've never seen him before. You've never met him. So you need to meet him, right? That way, when you see his headshot, you'll know who he is. And once they know you, what do they care what your headshot looks like, right? They just know, well, that's David Patrick Green. We think he's right for this, or we don't think he's right for this. And that's how you want things to go. You don't want to be everything to everyone, because you can never be everything to everyone. You want to really fill a niche until you get famous, at which point, when you're famous, you can start broadening your range, because people are going to bring you in because of your notoriety. But that's deadly sin number 2, is letting your agent tell you to get new headshots. If you like your headshots, then you say, hey, let's run with these for a while and see how they do. And if they don't work, which it isn't the headshots, it's the agent, or it's you. If that doesn't work, then let's talk about what exactly we're doing and what can we do to get me more known and more attractive to casting directors or producers or directors or whomever it is we're trying to appeal to. Okay? Because it's about the person. It's not about the headshots. It's never about the headshots. It's never been about the headshots, and it never will be about the headshots. Because guess what? When you go on camera, you don't hold up your headshots and go, hi, Mrs. Smith, I'd like to take your daughter on a date. Oh, hi, Mr. Smith, nice to see you. That's not acting. Acting is you in person. So that's how you need to be known, is by you, the person. Okay? So headshots are just like an avatar, right? They work when you know who the person is, but if you just submit the avatar, then there's no incentive to bring that person in. Oh, I like their headshot. Well, so what? I'm not going to hire their headshot. I'm going to hire them. So I need to know them. Okay, so don't switch headshots. That should be the very, 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 very last thing you do. And frankly, it shouldn't ever even be a consideration, because if that's what you're working with, if that's the only tool you're bringing to the game, then you're pretty much in trouble. Some people get lucky, and I don't want to hear your, well, my friend, he did really well with just his headshots. Okay, great. But you have no idea why people brought him in, her in either. You have no idea. They might have been out there networking. They might be very proactive. They might be incredibly good looking. And, people always bring in good looking people, and that's just kind of the way it is, because that's how American television in particular operates. It's not a good thing. And it's funny, we talk about all this women's rights and minority rights. What about the rights of the unattractive? Like, to me, that is a far more prejudicial method of dealing with people, is choosing only good looking ones. I mean, because that basically limits, if you're good looking if you're good looking, minority, or you're a good looking white person, which is, whatever, 2-3% of the population, that's far more discriminatory than any of the other practices, because it immediately discriminates against 97% of the population, right? Which is a pretty terrible thing. So it's funny how we get all wrapped up in these things, and really we should be focused on the entire industry and way it operates is completely phony. I mean, there are a bunch of muscular dudes that are super handsome and a bunch of hot women that look like models. And where are the real people? So anyway, headshots is never going to cut it. And so don't accept that from your agent. That's a deadly sin. Okay. Deadly sin number 3 is trying to use the internet to have your acting career. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by trying to have your acting career on the internet is that you never get out of the house and you never go meet with people, so that they never actually get a chance to know you. And you use all these third-party arm's length tools and transactions and technologies because they seem really easy and they seem really effective, because I can reach out to this person on Instagram, I can reach out to this person on Facebook, I can reach out to them on Snapchat or whatever the latest tool is. But you don't want to reach out to them and meet them on Facebook. You want to meet them in person. So you're saying, well, that's how I'm going to meet them in person. I'm going to reach out to them on the internet, and that could be through online submissions as well. And your agent is doing it as well, but they're probably encouraging you, and maybe you're taking some Instagram for Actors course, and you're spending all this money and all this time trying to communicate with people who have no idea who you are. So it's virtually like an online submission, and they're going to see a face, and you're, I don't know, going to send them a message or something, or maybe you're going to post dozens, if not hundreds of times, hoping that will attract people to you, and they still don't know who you are or what you can do as an actor. Okay? And so not only is it a giant waste of time, because you can create this profile and maybe you can even create a following. I'm not really sure, because how do you know if you're going to be interesting to anyone? The Kardashians figured it out and it's worked well for them, but they're one of a handful out of 7 billion people on the planet. Okay, so I wouldn't recommend any of these internet social media tools and sites and apps as a strategy to have an acting career, because all you're doing is getting to the point, if you're lucky, that someone knows who you are, and then maybe they will meet you. Why don't you just go meet them? And you're going, and I get this question a lot, but how do I do that? How do I meet producers? You just go find them, Google them, look them up on IMDb, look at a movie they've worked on, and try and find some contact information for them. Ideally, their physical address, because if you have their address, then you can actually go and say hi and introduce yourself and say, hey, Mr. Spielberg, how's it going? My name's David Patrick Green, and I really think I can be helpful to you. And then you get to tell the person what it is you have to offer, whether it's acting or cleaning their toilets or whatever, but you want to build up a relationship. You can't build up that relationship on social media. I mean, I would just say it's impossible, or you're going to spend a lot of time and money trying to prove me wrong, and you still haven't met them. Like, maybe they're some big fan of yours, but now they're like, so what? You've got a great presence on social media. Movies that have $100 million budgets don't need their, newborn actors to have a following of 10,000 people. That's really not going to make a big difference in the size of their movie. What's going to matter is that you're incredible and you bring the story to life. And they can't tell that from social media. Okay? So avoid spending a lot of time on social media, even any form of electronic communication. Email is better than most of those things because it's one-on-one, but it's still electronic. They still don't get a sense of who you are. They still, don't know what you can do, what your capabilities are. And that's the most important thing. That's what's going to get you acting opportunities and acting jobs. All right, let's move on to number 4. So that was, trying to use the internet to have an acting career. And I hope I'm sharing my time equally here between YouTube and Facebook. Hi YouTube. No, hi Facebook. Hi YouTube. I'm glad I've got a few live viewers, which is cool. So things are finally catching on a little bit. I'm also famous for teaching people how to whistle with no hands. If you want to learn how to whistle with no hands, that's a little quick demonstration. It's a very useful tool. You should learn how to do it. I have videos on that. You can look them up. So number 4, spending all your time around other unsuccessful actors or people who teach them. Good, right? Most actors, what do? They hang out with other actors and they talk about all these things they're doing, and they're always talking about auditions, and they're always talking about their headshots, and I got this demo reel now, and I've got a website now, and they talk about all of the same things because they're all scared of the same thing, which is losing their entire career, which is non-existent anyway, by making a mistake. And how do they make that mistake? They think they're going to make that mistake by doing something that's considered a faux pas by the acting industry, whatever they think the acting industry is, right? So they will think, again, approaching somebody is wrong. They think, oh yeah, man, I got new headshots. Here, look at my new headshots. What do you think? Which one? Which one do you think? And you spend a lot of time and, again, money getting headshots over and over. I think I spent, I don't know how much money I spent, and I got no love at all for my headshots. And just look at me, handsome devil, handsome, smart. But apparently that wasn't coming through in my pictures. For one, because my skin is very pale, my eyes would often disappear unless you get the camera really close to me, so there's light going in. You wouldn't see my eyes. And I have these really bright green eyes, but you couldn't see that. And so I hated my headshots, and I never felt comfortable giving them to people. Like, I never thought, oh yeah, they're going to really love me. And I couldn't get any, I could get commercial representation, no problem doing that method, but I couldn't get any theatrical. So, if you hang around all these people, like unsuccessful actors, or people who teach unsuccessful actors, because most actors in most classes have never worked professionally. Most of the actors that I worked with have never worked a day professionally. And even the ones that have worked a few still don't know really how they got those jobs and don't know how to replicate that. And so they aren't really that much further ahead than their completely unsuccessful friends. So you just won't gain anything other than you're going to reinforce the same bad ideas that you all kind of bring to the table. And if somebody does have a good idea, meaning an idea that might work, but it's different from what they have heard from everyone else, they will all, as a group, tend to say, oh, that's a terrible idea. Oh my gosh, do you know what would happen if you did that? If you actually went and, said hello to Marvel Studios, if you tried to get in touch with this celebrity or, this director, or, if you tried to develop a relationship with a TV show writer or somebody like that, you're going to get blackballed from the industry. And you're going to get in so much trouble. So you get these ideas that are self-fulfilling because one person, hi, Marie, I can't pronounce it. So they're going to poo-poo your ideas because they think they will get ostracized from the entertainment world. Like, someone's going to take the time to actually blackball you, which is ridiculous. They don't even know who you are. If you go in and introduce yourself, they're going to forget that you ever came in, unless you have a really good connection. If you go in there and make a fool of yourself, they're going to forget about you really quickly. Okay? If you go in there and you're nervous and you just, you're sweating and then you just throw up on the floor in front of them, they're just going to go, oh, geez, that's too bad. And you run out. Oh, merrily. Okay, there you go. It kind of looks French, and I speak French, so I'm trying to go French. But it's merrily, merrily, merrily. Okay, great. Thanks for stopping by, Merrily. Let me know if you have a question. So the idea that you do something different is going to be terrifying to them. So they will downplay it. They'll try and convince you not to do it because they think by one person even trying something crazy like that it'll probably affect them all negatively. So yeah, there's this herd mentality, there's this fear mentality, there's ego involved. It's all really bad. Hanging around these people is a really bad idea. What you want to do is hang around people that are actually ahead of you, that are succeeding, that are thriving. And don't be envious of them. Pay attention, watch what they're doing. See if what they're doing makes sense. See if it's a little bit different than what you've been told and what you've been hearing, and learn. And then whatever they're doing, if it sounds a little bit different, do that, but then go beyond that, because unless they're just killing it, they're probably not doing it enough. So you need to go further with it, okay? You need to take the road less traveled, okay? Find your own path and do it. Do what makes sense to you, not what everyone else told you to do. Do what you would do if you sort of landed here on Earth from a spaceship, and because you heard there was acting jobs, and so this is where you go. But now you have to figure out what to do. Well, the first thing you do is you don't ask a bunch of people who are completely unsuccessful how to do it. You don't ask anybody. Try and figure it out for yourself. And the way to prove if you're right or wrong is to actually do these things, and do them without fear, because there's nothing to be feared. The worst case scenario is that you will fail on each individual thing you do, but you're not failing in the whole goal. You're actually learning what works and what doesn't work. And then you find out, okay, this didn't work, so let me adjust it and try it again, or let me abandon that and try something different. I just saw a text here. I'm going to see if I can. Oh, what do I have here? What's that say? What do you think about asking an actor to pass on your headshot to their agent? Basically, kind of not a waste of time, but you're dealing with two of the deadly sins right there. You're asking someone else what to do, and you're asking for permission to do something, and you're depending on a headshot. If you know why, like, first of all, who cares who your friend's agent is? And just because your friend is with an agent doesn't mean you should be with them. You want to choose your agents individually based on who they are and based on who you are. It's like dating. You want to find the perfect match. Find out what all of their actors work on and see if it's a fit. Like, see if they have similar actors to who you are, and see if they work on shows that you believe you would be likely to work on, and choose your agents that way. Not just because you don't feel like you can take on the responsibility of finding an agent yourself, so you push it off onto your friend, and then what? They're depending on a headshot. Forget the headshot. You want the headshot to be the last thing you give them. If I meet someone at a party, I'm not going to say, here's my headshot. I'm going to say, let's meet at your office. And then if I like them and they like me and we want to develop some kind of relationship, then I'll give them my headshots, because now they know who I am. That has to come first. You don't want to do it the other way around, especially if you have the opportunity. So I would never give someone materials when you can give them yourself, because it's you that are going to be doing the acting, and that's the only thing that matters. And look, if your friend turns out to have an agent that you think you would be well represented by for whatever reasons, then just show up at that agent's doorstep and introduce yourself and say, oh, my friend so-and-so, and hopefully your friend is doing really well, so that gets you some leverage. No, forget, yeah, exactly. It is your business card. And so throw your business card out the window, because nobody's buying anything from your business card. They're buying from you. And forget it. It's you. And just forget everything you think you know right now. If you aren't working professionally, you obviously don't know that much about the business. I've been working professionally for almost 15 years now, and I have pretty much done and tried everything. And if I haven't done it and tried it, my clients have, and it works. And the last thing you want to do is give materials when you could be giving yourself. The materials come at the end, at which point you really don't need them. All of my first jobs and most of the jobs I've ever booked has had nothing to do with a headshot, not even largely nothing to do with auditions. The roles were just given to me because of relationships I've developed and things that happen in the background you have no awareness of. But I don't want to get too far astray here. Just show up at this agent's office, say, and if this friend of yours is, someone the agent thinks highly of, that'll help. Oh, Tony, or Cindy, or whatever, and that's great. They'll be happy that you're a friend of theirs, and it'll rub off on you, but you don't need them to refer you, and you don't need them to hand this agent your headshot, because then you've suddenly abdicated your responsibility. You've put it onto somebody else, and you're waiting for them to do something. And what if they never do it? And what are you going to do? Bug them? Hey, did you give the headshot? And you become like this desperate, helpless person who's just like, oh, I hope they hand off my headshot, and then I hope the agent calls. It's so unproactive, and it's your responsibility to make sure that people know who you are. If they don't like it, too bad, but you got to keep coming. You got to be like, because you know what? That's what people in the business want. That's what the agents and casting directors are terrified of, all forms of proactivity and self responsibility, because they're just terrified of their jobs, and they're terrified of responsibilities. And what you should do is the exact opposite of whatever they do. You should be bold and be yourself, because then they know when this person shows up on set, they're going to give me something. It might not be exactly what I had in mind, but then I can say, that was really interesting, David. That was really interesting, Marilee. Can we just try it a little, think of it this way? And you go, yeah, okay. And you just bring 100% of whatever that little adjustment might have been. Or you can do what Samuel Jackson does, and he says, no, I can't do it that way, because that's not the truth of the character that I have brought. And if I do that, then everything else I do has to be readjusted, because, and you hired me for me. You didn't hire me to be a puppet. Do it this way, do it that way. There's lots of actors that'll do it that way, and guess what? They don't get hired. You hired me because of me, and so I'm just going to stick with my choices. And I've seen tons of professional actors walk into rooms, because I've run casting sessions for some of the biggest TV shows on earth and movies, and I've seen actors walk in and they did their thing, and everyone's like, oh, that was really good, and it might not be what they were looking for. And this is where people are kind of there's a lot of unintelligence. I don't want to say stupidity, but there's a lot of unintelligence out there, people that don't have insight. And so they go, oh, and they're thinking that was really close to what we want, but it wasn't exactly what we wanted. So can you do it this way? And the person's kind of like looking at them going, no, because this is who I am. I do me. If you want whatever you just described, then there's probably a person who does that, but that's my take on the world. This is who I am. And if you can actually do that, just learn how to be yourself in auditions, you will do amazingly well. And if you can stick to believing in yourself and not trying to always cater to what you think people want, because they don't even know what they want, then they will adore you if you can stick to just being yourself, and don't try and cater to what you think people's whims are. Okay, so little bit of a tangent because of Marilee, but what the heck? I'm here to inform, right? So that was number 4, spending all your time around other unsuccessful actors or people who teach them. Here's deadly sin number 5, and that is overdoing it on complicated acting classes. Now, I'm not going to get specific. I think if you're new to acting, there are some acting methodologies. Did you hear how I said, I should have said methodologies that are really complicated, and they take away your natural instincts, because when you're starting out, you have so much terror and fear about what you should be doing because you're in this position of trying to please others, which you have to get out of your head. I don't know if that's deadly sin number. It should be a deadly sin. Let's throw that in there right now. Deadly sin, trying to please others, trying to get into the minds of others and giving them what you think they want rather than just giving them who you are and trusting that. And that's probably the most important thing you'll ever do in your life, as far as any job and any relationship, is start with who you are first and get happy with that. And then go find people who appreciate you and avoid everybody else. Don't worry about everybody else. You can't have everybody like you. If you can get somebody to like you, then they will tell others, this is who this person is, and I like them. Not everybody does, but then you will get work all the time because people know who you are and they know what they get. And that's just a super important ability. So, gosh, I have Alzheimer's. Complicated acting classes. So complicated acting classes, you have instincts, right? Your instinct is, if I'm talking to you and something happens or I say something, you have a gut reaction. The gut reaction is your instinct, and your instincts are made up of all of your experiences plus your innate personality, your innate brain and how it functions, as well as all of the natural information that the universe has given to our species as a whole. So if you think about it, like, do people have instincts? Do they have personalities? Do they have, innate abilities? Well, look at every other species on the planet and how much they are able to do without ever being taught anything. Eagles can fly out of nests as soon as they have feathers. Foals, little horses, and cows are on their feet 30 seconds after they are born. Like, they're just like, I'm out, boing, and they know food, They don't have to be told anything. Guess what? We all have these instincts too, but we have this intellect that other animals don't, and the intellect is what actually gets in the way probably 99% of the time. It's what creates disputes, it creates fights, creates complications, grudges. We can never let go of things. Like, humans are a disaster. We're a disaster compared to the average animal. And so you need to learn to trust your animal instincts. And that's who you really are as a person. And try and rely on those. And that's really right side of the brain stuff, right? It's when you're focused on what you're doing and you're not thinking about, what should I do? And what are the consequences of me doing what I think I should do? Because that is trying to predict the future, and there's no way to predict the future. Well, I think dogs can dream too, Marilee. So, you've seen them running in their sleep. So I don't know what the dreaming part, means towards humans and animals, but we think they don't. They just react. They react to things. They are in the present. They're in the present moment. They have to be, because it's survival to them. They really only have a few things to do, right? They rest, they eat, and they reproduce. And as babies, they play. But most animals don't really engage in a lot of play. Their play becomes for mates and things like that, and territory. But it's really simple stuff. And they live simply, and actors need to learn how to live simply too, especially when they're performing. But if you can translate that living simply as a performer to your life, I think you'll also be happier. Be happy with the simple stuff. Live in the moment. Don't dream of what you don't have. Don't dream of what other people have, and don't be jealous and envious, and live in that moment. But let's get back to the complicated acting classes. They teach you to analyze all these things and create these scenarios, and they create these exercises, and breaking down material word by word, script, step by step. But they get you so caught up in the detail, you forget what the big picture is. And the big picture is really what counts. What happens moment to moment is doesn't change the fact that this story is going from here to here no matter what you do, okay? Like Romeo and Juliet, they're star-crossed lovers, and they're going to end up dead on each other, dead lying across each other's bodies. So you can analyze all you want. You're not going to change anything. You need to just look at the facts and live within those facts and trust your instincts. Go, okay, I know what the facts are, so now live inside of those facts and don't think, oh, what do you think the producers want here? Why did they write that? Don't worry about it. They wrote it, and if it doesn't say anything more, then that's all you need to know, because really good writers only include the information that is necessary to carry the story forward, because anything else they write ends up being a distraction and a red herring to the audience, and it ends up confusing and taking the audience out of the story. And that's also how an actor will take in an audition or an acting situation, how you will take your audience out of the story is by trying to do something, getting ideas in your head about what something is instead of just trusting your instincts. So to me, and I know it's not easy for people, that's why they take acting classes, because they don't think they know how to be instinctual and natural, but it's innate, okay? We innately manipulate people all the time to get what we want, right? We learn very quickly how to manipulate our parents. We cry. That's our innate survival response to the world, is when we are born, we cry. We cry and we coo. And that's basically all we do, and that's all we need to do, because our parents know if we're crying, that means there's a problem, and they'll figure it out. What do you want? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want a food? Do you want a toy? Yeah, that's what I want. I want the toy. No, I don't want the bottle. Right? That's all our innate. That's all humans are able to do. Otherwise, what do? We just lie there and we're stuck. We can't even lift our heads. Okay? So stick with the simple. And if you get into a class where you're just doing exercise after exercise and you've lost track of what it is you're actually doing, and this is really easy because the teachers have lost track. They've forgotten a long time ago what actual act is, and that is to just live inside of imaginary circumstances, right? Just live there. Live there. It's not easy if you just say that. But it sure is a lot harder when you overcomplicate the crap out of it. And I've seen so many people with their, in particular, American method acting. I actually think external British acting is better because it's fake, but it's fake within the circumstances, so it's not complicated. I don't even think they teach that anymore. But, the whole idea of the method, it's so complicated, like you got to go so far away from your own truth and then try and get back to it. And look, I'm not here to really disparage, but it's very, very complicated. And I have studied years of this stuff, and I lost my way. I was just like, wait, is this exercise or is this exercise? And wait, what animal am I being? And what type of person am I being? Am I being a monster or a savior? And I'm like, oh my God, like who cares? That's a label. Why would I, that's the audience's job, okay? The audience gets to label you. You don't get to label yourself. You just be yourself, and the audience will say, this is what I think. And anyway, if you can avoid a lot of this complicated stuff and trust that you are enough, then you will have a chance to be a very successful professional actor, okay? If you just allow yourself to do that. And then when you get the confidence in yourself, you can then find the people that'll really appreciate who you are, and they will be thankful you came along, because you will fill specific roles. Okay, so enough of the complicated acting roles and enough of the complicated explanation of why you shouldn't take these acting classes, or at least get too wrapped up in them. Like as soon as your head starts to spin, you should probably get on your bike and spin out of there, because you're probably somewhere you don't want to be, and it's not going to help you in the long run, because most of the material you will ever encounter in your life, you don't have the time to analyze anything. TV and movies, this is why the complicated acting classes really screw people over. You work on iconic material that has been done for centuries, right? Shakespeare, Miller, whomever. I don't know a lot of playwright names off the top of my head. But these classical roles, everybody wants to play them because they've seen them. Well, they've been played so many times that everybody has an idea of how they should be played, and you have an idea of how they should be played. And what do? You spend weeks and weeks and weeks trying to break this character down, and so you can finally get to the crux of who they are, and then you do them. And that's great if you want to do iconic roles, fine, and you have 6 weeks to 8 weeks to develop it and you get a script. But that is not the reality of TV and film. They don't do this for weeks in advance. What they do is they probably wrote the stuff yesterday. They give you the draft, you put it on tape, or you come in tomorrow, and you just got to trust who you are because you have no background. There's no analysis. You don't know anything. You'll probably just get the pages that you have to perform, and you have no backstory whatsoever. And frankly, there probably is no backstory because they just wrote this character. They don't know where he came from. They just know, he's a teller at a bank. He's a mail person, mailman. This is a ballerina. This is a, female Asian computer scientist. What does that entail? You're going to try and figure out, well, they're an Asian computer scientist, therefore they probably have resentment against white people maybe, and they've got, maybe some kind of immigrant work ethic. No, it doesn't. It just means they're going to lines that are written on the page and put themselves in the scenario that presents themselves. And if that's cracking the code in a murder case, or if it's trying to break into a bank, or if it's programming, some kind of disease protocol, that's what they're going to be given, and that's what they're going to do. And the fact that they are Asian and an immigrant and a computer scientist won't really come into play, because they could also be a cop and have the same mentality and just instinct to be there in the moment. Okay? So because you'll very rarely be doing iconic roles, to me, it is doing you a disservice by spending all this time on iconic roles, unless that's what you want to do, and that's fine. Do plays that have lots of prep time. But TV and film, almost zero prep time. You got to trust who you are and just go with it. And they either like you or they don't. Don't worry about it. Be happy either way, because if they didn't like you, it's just because you weren't right for the part. It's not because you were a bad actor. And if you did a good job and you actually lived in the moment, they'll probably be thankful. Now they know a really good actor who can play something, maybe not this, or maybe this, but there was someone else better, but you could play something else. And they'll keep that in their memory bank. And you would not believe how producers keep stuff in their memory banks. And then they remember who you are, and they'll call on you when you least expect it. All right. Rule number 6. This is a lot longer than I anticipated, but that's good. There's lots more information than I anticipated. Getting wrapped up in people and projects that are going nowhere. So what I mean by this is when you are starting out, you're trying to get involved in projects. In particular, in Los Angeles, there are tons of movies and TV projects and YouTube series and stuff like that constantly flying around, right? And we are so desperate that we want to be part of this because it feeds our ego. And, we actually skip ahead rather than thinking about what is right for me based on who I am and just sticking with that program. We make ourselves available to anything because we figure anything is better than nothing. And we get really flattered when someone offers us a big part. They might even offer us co-producer, opportunities. And of course, there's no money involved in any of these projects. But because it flatters our ego, we take these projects on. But we don't ask any questions because we're too scared. We don't go, what's the budget? We don't ask, when's it going to get done? We don't ask for money because, oh my gosh, I might not get the project if I actually ask tough questions. And the irony is, if you're not asking tough questions, then you'll never know what the project is. And so, you're to blame if it doesn't go anywhere. And if you are right for a project and you ask the right questions, they're actually going to think, great, we brought somebody on who's a professional who knows what questions to ask. Not, we need to fire this person because they're asking questions that we don't want to answer. because what would they have to hide if it's a legitimate project? Hey, lost my YouTube feed there for some reason, but I'm back. And so if you ask tough questions, which is really like, what's the budget and where's it shooting and when's it shooting and how many projects have you done before and who are you working with? Yes, I know I lost the connection. Don't even know why. The app crashed. But if you ask these questions, then you will actually make yourself seem smarter. You will give yourself more confidence that you're working on a project that may turn into something. And you're also revealing to the person the people that you're working with, that you're somebody who's going to ask questions. So don't mess with you, right? Like, this person's not going to be messed with. And it's really important to take that position. I'm not going to be messed with. Like, oh, doesn't say anything about nudity. Then you get to the set and they go, oh, would you mind taking your top off? This is how a lot of problems crop up. Pardon the pun, crop top, is being thrown a curveball and not knowing how to react because you're scared. And this is not an excuse for doing things that you shouldn't do. You're scared of losing your job. You'll get a lot more jobs and there'll be a lot better jobs if you actually stand up for yourself, because only losers would fire someone for standing up for themselves. Losers and assholes, pardon me, dicks, like scumbags, only those people would ever fire someone for standing up for themselves. If you stand up for yourself, people actually admire you and they won't ask you things like that. They'll go, oh, right, no, sorry, I should have never asked. You don't have to do this. And don't worry about losing jobs. You can't worry about what you're going to lose. You got to worry about being in control and taking responsibility for yourself. Okay, that's super important. So anyway, regarding these projects, I've gotten involved in projects where I was extremely flattered. I was given the lead without even knowing anything about it. They had never even seen me act before. And so you get flattered and you think, oh yeah, and they talk a good game, and it sort of leads you to not asking tough questions. And so you don't ask the questions, and these projects go on and on and on, and they drag out, and then you find you're not doing projects that you should be doing because you've made yourself unavailable, and yet these projects never get completed, and maybe do get completed, they're no good anyway, because the people that make projects like this don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing on any level, okay? They have big dreams, but they like to take shortcuts. And you know what? There are no shortcuts. Like people that want to direct movies that have never directed before. They don't know anything about cameras. They don't know anything about sound. They think they can just, wing it completely. They don't know about permits and locations, and they don't know how actors work. They don't know anything about anything. And there are people that do know a little bit, but they only know enough to be dangerous. They have money, but they don't know how to do things. And again, a lot of people are always trying to take shortcuts. A lot of actors will make projects because they have it as actors. Well, if you don't know how to succeed as an actor, what makes you think you're going to succeed as a filmmaker? Like, it's the same stuff. It's universal principles of success that I teach every day to my clients and to my Hack Hollywood members. Know yourself, know the skills, know the business, know the people, and then become known. That's all you got to do. If you hang on to those 5 things, you'll be fine. So anyway, ask a lot of questions, because it'll not only keep you out of a lot of trouble, but it'll also show that you know the questions to ask, and people will actually be impressed by that. Okay, we're getting down closer to the end now. We're okay. Here we are. This is rule number 7, deadly sin number 7. The deadly actor sins. Rule number 7 is deadly sin number 7 is failing to understand you are part of the entertainment industry and not the acting industry. Okay? Entertainment is what you are going to be doing via all kinds of other people doing their role, making this project that you are on, whether it's TV or film. And all of these different people with their different responsibilities are what make these projects work. So they all have to communicate with one another. Well, guess what? Everybody else is communicating with each other. The lighting people are talking to the producers and the associate producers and the assistant directors. The camera people are talking with the cinematographers and the grips and the directors and producers, possibly. The craft food services people are talking to their bosses, which could be the producers or ADs, etc. Could be line producers. Everybody is talking to everybody else. I mean, not everybody, the sound person isn't necessarily going to be talking to the PA who's, running around C-stands and sandbags. But they know of each other's existence and they kind of know how they all fit into it because they've spent a lot of time on set. They've been to pre-production meetings. They know what happened on the day. Guess which is the only group that doesn't take part in any of this? Actors. Okay? Actors are off in their own little world in La La Land, and they don't see themselves as being part of the entertainment industry. Well, you need to stop having that mentality. You need to realize you are part of the entertainment industry and you need to be communicating with these other departments. They don't necessarily see it this way. They actually isolate actors from everyone else. They stick you in a trailer. We're the only ones who sit around all day twiddling our thumbs going, oh, I hope they call me. I mean, one of my first acting jobs was on this pilot, and this huge director was directing it, and I got there at 9 a.m. for a 9 a.m. call, and I didn't get to go on set until 5 p.m. that day. So I was literally sitting in my trailer for 8 hours, going bonkers, and I didn't really know what to do. So I would leave the trailer and kind of wander around, and they don't really like you to do that because they need to know where you are at all time, because in case they want to use you, they can't be like, where'd he go? And so I would wander, but I would get fidgety. I would go mental. I took a nap. You don't know what to do. And it's kind of frustrating because you wish you could be more involved. You could be sitting in the village, which is where all the monitors are, where the producers and the directors hang out to watch what's going on in the set. You could be there hanging out, talking to people, getting to know people, talking about the project, getting more insight, which will help you and your instincts do a better job. But, they don't do that. And that's on the set. That doesn't mean you cannot fraternize and get to know people like producers, writers, and directors, and even other people like the sound people, the lighting people, the electric people, the catering people, craft services, whatever. You can get to know all these different people, and it'll really give you a sense of what they do and who they talk to and how their job gets done. And the more insight you have, the more confidence you will have in what it is your job requirements are. And that way, you're much better at auditioning. You're much better at dealing with everyone from casting directors to agents to people on the set that day, because you know how important it is for you to do what you do. And when they say, hey, can you get changed? You get changed right away because they may need you makeup right away. You don't sort of take your sweet time. You don't go wandering off. If you are going to the bathroom or whatever, find an AD and say, hey, just going 10-100. Well, you don't have to say 10-200, but going to the honey wagon, right? That's what they call it. The honey wagon. Those are the portable bathrooms. So that's it. Those are my 7 deadly sins. I'll just read through them really quick because this has been really long. But let me just recap, okay? Maybe I can finish it by 1 hour. Deadly sin number 1, relying on others to do your job. Deadly sin number 2, getting new headshots because your new agent doesn't like the old one, or your old agent doesn't like the ones you have. Deadly sin number 3, trying to use the internet to have your acting career. Deadly sin number 4, spending all your time around other unsuccessful actors or people who teach them. Deadly sin number 5, overdoing it on complicated acting classes. Deadly sin number 6, getting wrapped up in people and projects that are going nowhere. And finally, deadly sin number 7, failing to understand you are part of the entertainment industry, not part of the acting industry. Okay? So that's it, guys. I hope this was valuable. See if there's any more questions. Thanks for coming out, everyone. And thanks for bearing with me on this little experiment of being live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. And all that requires, if you're wondering, is two cell phones, 2 smartphones, and you just basically go live on Facebook on one and go live on YouTube on the other. And if you have any requirements to read anything, you can have another phone. And that's it. So I'm out of here. Please keep your questions and comments coming. And if you want to avail yourself of any services, just message me. Like, tell me what your needs are. I probably have some way I can help you. And hopefully, probably for everybody's budget as well. All right, guys, that's it. And we'll talk to you soon. Hey, everybody.